Okay, so this is William Montgomery speaking in the flesh. This is the 5 lawsuit guy or whatever. This is my response to Steve Lehto. Mr. Lehto, I've been following your stuff for a while. I've always felt that you were a little off with your Walmart receipt check policy commentary, but man, like, I hate to say this, man, but I think you've gone down the wrong side of this debate, and you picked the wrong side, man. This stuff has got to be sorted out, okay? So, like, this is totally unplanned, so I'm just gonna try and cover as much as I possibly can, but to give you guys a little bit of background out there, a couple years ago, I just noticed how Walmart started, asking for receipts at exits. And from my experiences of, being homeless one time, long time ago, and how cops kind of stereotype, I figured that there might be some bigotry going on there. And, maybe my beard has something to do with it. I don't know. But basically, I decided not show my receipt one day to see if that might be used against me, rather than actually collecting evidence of my, guilt. And lo and behold, I was right. And so now I don't show my receipt everywhere I shop. I need to make this abundantly clear. Like, this is not a sting. Like, I'm purposely going out of my way to entrap or anything like that. I just don't show my receipt when I go shopping, like everybody else. That's the whole point. It's a sting, like a bait car. I have become indistinguishable from a regular customer, and the only difference is that I record myself, which, by the way, I delete every mundane encounter. I have thousands of recordings I would have otherwise saved, kind of like a cop at his body cam. And then 2, I sue over it. There would be a ton of lawsuits out there if everybody decided to do what I did one day and sue over this stuff. So, I'm pretty disappointed in how the courts have construed me as basically some lawsuit scammer. Like, I'm not jumping in front of vehicles, to sue for being hit or anything like that. I'm not entrapping anybody, man. Everybody knows that there's a receipt check policy to ask, and I just don't show my receipt. So, anyways, okay, so we gotta clear through some fucking bullshit now. This is ridiculous. Okay, so shopkeeper's privilege is where a merchant has something that is just a scotch more than a citizen. Otherwise, they're just a regular citizen, and it's just a regular citizen's arrest, because we're not talking about cops here. But they have something where they don't actually have to follow through with the conviction in order to not be held liable for the imprisonment. But it's based on probable cause, and in this case, that's pretty much something ready to, like, go to court over. So usually you have to, like, see somebody take something from a wall uninterrupted, can't lose eye contact with them in the bathroom or something, and then they have to pass all points of sale and not pay for it. Obviously, that's not what is happening, and that's why I and very many other people have an issue with this receipt Nazism, I call, at the exit. And that's because people are not using anything inculpatory anymore. They're basically using a lack of exculpatory. So it's basically, it's not that I'm using a register in the back. It's that I'm not using a register in the front. People are lazy and they just wanted to see you come only from the front. But come on, merchants know that there's registers in the back. They put them there themselves. So you can't use that for shopkeeper's privilege. Plastic bag use. There's lots of people that don't use plastic bags. One item, too large of an item. 6 states have outlawed them, or at least Walmart has stopped using them in those states. Colorado is one of them. Plus they cost 10 cents, and they're not very environmentally friendly. And that's why I don't use them. So, but the point is you can't use that as, like, we think you're stealing now. It's a cue. You're allowed to use it, like, for increased observation. Maybe, ask them at the exit if they don't have a bag. And then if they say no, jot their description down, go look them up, go find out what they did. That's the whole point. Observe and report, right? But none of these things are inculpatory. Somebody not using a plastic bag is not inculpatory. Somebody coming from the back, which, by the way, some registers you have to buy those things at, like cosmetics, is not inculpatory. But most importantly, holy crap, are you guys ready for this? Nobody seems to get this anymore. But refusing to show a receipt is just a refusal to a consent to being searched. And cops don't get to use that to bootstrap with. Merchants don't either. And that's the crux of my whole sting operation, is that you can't use the request itself or the denying of that request as the new reason to do it now. So in a nutshell, cops have tried this for decades, and they've already been shot down a long time ago. But anytime that a cop asks somebody to search their vehicle and that person says no, you can't use that declination to be searched as the new reason to go ahead and detain him now. Or sorry, in this case, search. So the whole point is it creates a Hobson's choice. So essentially, anybody who gets asked for a receipt, regardless of where they're coming from, front or back, regardless of whether they have a bag or not, they're all 100% effectively detainable. You're either detained because you voluntarily consented to the detention by showing your receipt, or you got forced detained because you said no. And so if you're detainable either way, it looks like the asking is moot. The whole request itself is irrelevant. And that's why courts have thrown this out. It's literally not articulated, individualized suspicion, because the merchant is the one that has the power to ask whoever he wants. Anybody, anywhere. So people are using this to bootstrap shopkeepers' privilege with when they're you can't do that. It's just not part of the equation. It's not possible. Mathematically, logically, it's not part of the equation. So, but anyways, now comes some very, very important concepts here, okay? So, number one, you, Mr. Lehto, and the Court of Appeals keep pushing this idea that, well, if you don't want to show your receipt, just don't go shopping at Walmart. You know it's their policy. And what nobody seems to be getting, this very important factor here, is that it is not Walmart's policy to detain those who don't show their receipt. It's Walmart's policy to ask. Everybody knows that. Ask. And by them asking, which they have a right to do, you retain your right to say no. It's all voluntarily done. And if you go look up the actual case law, like Ball v. Walmart, it's just a policy to ask. There's a TikTok video that came out recently where an employee even pointed out that it's not their policy to detain. And so I don't get why everyone keeps talking about how you knew the policy and you did it anyway. I knew full well when I went shopping at Walmart that their policy, by policy following employees, is to not detain me. And for the court to like pull a bait and switch on me and then all of a sudden after the fact retroactively apply some rogue non-policy following employees' behavior as policy is totally illegal. I'm sorry, but you can't hold me to some fire of like, you knew you were going to be asked. Of course I knew I was going to be asked. Everybody knows they're going to be asked. That's the whole point. Side note, even stores like Costco and Sam's Club, in their policy, that says we have the right to request your receipt. Even if you don't show your receipt, then that still doesn't give them the right to detain you. All you're doing is withdrawing any consent you may have given, and then the only thing they can do at that point is just withdraw your membership. That's it. It's over. You can withdraw your consent to being searched at any time. You just give up your membership rights. It's just if you don't want to be searched before you go into that party, then you just don't. As soon as you enter the door and they start searching you, you can say stop. And then they'll be like, okay, leave. And then that's it. So, people you guys got to give it up, this idea of like, oh, well, if you don't like the policy, shop elsewhere. It's not Walmart's policy to detain people who don't show their receipts. Okay, moving on. Probably the most important thing that you didn't get, Mr. Lehto. I'm really disappointed in you, man. I just can't believe that you didn't actually get this, man. And the Court of Appeals don't get this either. Nobody seems to get this, except for a couple people I see in the comments here and there. But, we talked about shopkeeper's privilege, okay? So that's how you separate a regular U.S. citizen from a merchant, right? Or my example is like a private investigator, just like anybody else, a security guard, neighborhood watch person. It don't matter. Everybody that's not a cop, they all have the same power across the board, which is citizens arrest rights, and that's it. So, well, we give shopkeepers this shopkeeper's privilege, right? So they have a little bit more rights. Yeah, except that the way that the Court of Appeals ruled is that by me having my receipt and me choosing not to show it, I failed to avail myself of this escape path, which is a whole nother argument of what the definition of escape versus release is, because, once you are detained, showing the receipt is not going to retroactively undo the prior detention from occurring in the first place, yada yada. But just focusing on this idea that a receipt is your escape path, doesn't that render the very detention to have not occurred in the first place? Meaning, with my court cases, I haven't even gotten to the point of establishing that I was detained because I had this receipt, and so that paradoxically renders a detention to have never existed in the first place. No detention, no shopkeeper's privilege. Shopkeeper's privilege is a defense to a false imprisonment claim. So these judges have literally written out the very capacity for the privilege to be invocable in the first place because of this twisted concept that all you gotta do is show your receipt to escape. And by the way, courts have already tossed that. Ball v. Walmart in Massachusetts, it was the employees permitting her to leave after the fact that constituted her imprisonment until that happened. She showed her receipt, and it was still a false imprisonment. Now, I have my own problems with showing my receipt because, there's already courts out there that have ruled, based upon someone suing after showing the receipt, that when you show the receipt, as you sort of consenting to the detention in the first place. So you can't have it both ways. You can't have showing your receipt as consenting to the detention and refusing to show your receipt as failing to avail yourself of some escape path, therefore consenting to the detention. So I'm sorry, but the customer is not in some such unlucky lot of person that they're just detainable either way, and that a merchant has no risk anymore at all because there's no detention, there's no false imprisonment, there's no tort, there's no shopkeeper's privilege, there's no nothing. I'm sorry. This is the problem with the receipt check issue, and this is why I don't show my receipt anywhere. Is not because I'm trying to be some butt. It's not because I'm just a little turd in the punch bowl. It's to make sure that people get reminded that there's a third category of people out there that they haven't fairly separated wheat from chaff yet. There's those who pay who show, those who don't pay who don't show, and people are trying to ratify those as the only two people when there's people who do pay who don't show. And if you don't do your homework, you're falsely imprisoning that person. Technically, you're falsely imprisoning somebody who did steal, who doesn't show a receipt. If you didn't establish your elements of shopkeeper's privilege on the back end, like seeing them take stuff and so forth. What if somebody threw away their receipt? Do they lose their right? Like, there's escape path? Anyways, I could go on and on. I got lots of work to do. I got a Supreme Court writ to prepare on this. But, I basically I'm there to make sure that the pendulum doesn't swing too far in the direction of crime control. And if it does, it'll swing back in the direction of due process. And that's where we are right now, is that it swung way too far in this direction. And people keep thinking that, merchants have a right to this receipt now. And it's like, dude, does a private investigator have a right to your name? You can give it. The moment that you give it, he'll let you go, and therefore it's an escape path. He told you that all you had to do is give your name and he let you go. Sorry, private investigators don't have any rights to your name. Merchants don't have any inherent rights to your receipt. Neighborhood watch people, they have no inherent rights to your address on your ID to see if you live in that neighborhood or not. The only thing that, somebody might have a right of is a cop who might have reasonable suspicion or probable cause, depending on those circumstances. But that's a whole nother thing. We're not even talking about that. So, just, I would love to know your thoughts on this, Mr. Lehto. 1, how can shopkeeper's privilege be invoked for a detention that paradoxically has been ruled to not be existable in the first place? And 2, what say you about Walmart's official receipt checking policy, which is that they can ask all they want, and that everybody who knows that they're permitted to pass if they don't show it? Please enlighten me, man. Until then, I've got 98% of the country on my side and 2% of people that just logically can't wrap their mind around it. And I don't want to say corporate sellouts, but they're definitely accessories after the fact to all of my false imprisonments. And what's so funny too about this, real important, is that, I thought showing my receipt or telling the court I had it after the fact was an easy way to prove my innocence, right? And therefore prove their guilt. I'm not going to be so nice next time. I've already got cases where I have it all set up perfectly. A true sting where I'm not going to say I had a receipt or not. I'm not even going to say I was a customer or not. Burden of proof ain't on me for anything, man. All I got to show is that I was surrounded. And then they have to be the ones that separate the wheat from the chaff. I'm done doing the merchants' homework for them, even in a lawsuit, man. Screw that, man. Anyways, I hate to say this, man, but I think you got it totally wrong. And that's why I don't show my receipt, is so that I can expose people like you who basically just can't get the basic concepts of shopkeeper's privilege correct. There's nothing special about shopkeepers, man. Probable cause is the same as shopkeeper's privilege because citizens only get citizens arrest powers with the possibility of not having to follow through with the conviction. That's the only thing shopkeepers get. Anyways, good luck to you, man. I'm glad you covered my stuff. I wish I had known this earlier. I would have given you guys this report response a long time ago. Hopefully somebody can still see it and, watch it and stuff. Please post a bunch of comments, questions about this to me, guys, because I'm in the thick of it, man. I got 5 lawsuits. Oh, very important, by the way. I go shopping hundreds and thousands of times, and only a couple times did I actually catch lawsuits. I'm not intentionally entrapping these people. It's not like the only 5 times I sued were the only 5 times I put out a recording ahead of time were the only times I had acted in a certain way. No, I'm doing everything 100% indistinguishable than other customers. I'm just suing over it. That's it. So if everybody actually did what I did, this would be over a long time ago. But I'm having to battle this blob of people they'd rather, assuage the perceived evil and just show the receipt because they think that's how they keep the prices low. And it's like, dude, Walmart's already keeping their prices way lower than usual because of the costs that they save by not doing any real investigating on the back end. And if they're not lowering their prices, they're technically stealing in a way, because they're making everybody do their investigations for them, like showing the receipt, and they're not compensating people. And then, of course, if somebody doesn't show the receipt, that's where you really do have to compensate somebody. And that's why I don't show my receipt for a free lawsuit. Because if somebody's going to hand out free lawsuits at the door, well, I'm game. Wouldn't you?